Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. Welcome to my monthly video on the best new games hitting retail. Every month I run through about 25 games that are hitting stores or online marketplaces or things like that near you. There are always more than 25 games that are hitting retail every month, but I just can't include them all because this video would be a million hours long. So I try to narrow it down to about 25 great games. I also do other videos in this retail series. I do the best new editions hitting retail because we are in a day and age in the board game hobby where there are a ton of new editions of older games coming out. Reimplementations, new versions of games that are 20, 30 years old. And I also do a best new expansions coming to retail. So make sure to check those out. Thanks so much for liking and subscribing and supporting the channel. Like I said, we have about 25 great games hitting retail this month. Hopefully there's something in here for everybody. You know, there's heavy games, there's lightweight games, there's family games, and everything in between. So thanks for being here. As always, these games aren't in any order of preference. I just do it alphabetically by publisher. So first up this month, this is the month of May, we have Donut Shop from 25th Century Games. This is 2 to 4 players, plays in 20 to 40 minutes, and it is that sort of higher lightweight game, you know, maybe lighter medium weight game, somewhere sort of in that gray area between lightweight and medium weight. Donut Shop is a tile laying game where you will be putting out tiles, and those tiles have different types of donuts on them, and then you are, you know, building out a grid and then scoring points for different order cards. You know, if you can get patterns in the right spots, if you can get donuts in the right patterns, then you can score points from your order cards. This definitely is like Homer Simpson's dream game right here. Donuts, right? You know, I mean, that's every time I look at this, I feel like, you know, I was actually really popular in college because I was doing stand-up in college, and so I would always show up to college parties late, and I would show up to parties at midnight with like milk and donuts. And boy, there's not a better way to get into people's hearts faster than donuts at midnight at a college party. So you know, this game seems fun for those thematic tie-ins to my life. If you're a fan of donuts or if you're a fan of tile laying games, then Donut Shop is probably one for you. You know, this is one that I will say I was like, you know, I've played a lot of tile laying games, but everybody I've talked to has really liked this game, so it makes me more interested in it than I think was originally. So yeah, Donut Shop from 25th Century Games. AEG is releasing the game Let's Go to Japan. I love the theme of this game. This is a very relatable game in that the designer of the game designed this during the pandemic because he was supposed to go on a trip to Japan, and then he made a game about going to Japan because he couldn't do it in real life, and I think we all had stuff canceled because of the pandemic, so I love that origin story of the game. This was also on my top 15 most anticipated games of the year. It plays 1 to 5 players in 45 to 60 minutes, and it is a lighter medium weight game. I did have a chance to play like a prototype of this once, and I thought it was really interesting because you are doing some sort of engine building. You are drafting cards and playing them into different days of the week, and then you almost like fire off your engine only a single time. It's really interesting and unique in that way. Most of the game is planning and putting cards in the right days and trying to set up combos and trying to sort of think about how you're going to do it, and then you actually go on your trip and you just go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you sort of fire off your engine and score all your points there in just sort of one last big round. And so, you know, it's really, I don't know, it's an interesting planning where you are drafting a card and then you're passing some to other players, and comboing symbols. You are moving between cities potentially, but you don't want to move back and forth too much because then you have to pay for train tickets and that gets expensive. It's very thematic. It feels really like you are planning a trip and you have all the days of the week and you're like, this is what we're doing this day and this is what we're doing this day. And so I love the origin story, I love the planning of it, and I think it's really interesting how you're sort of building something that you only fire off once. It's a unique game in that way. So yeah, if you like traveling or, your travel plans got canceled, check out Let's Go to Japan from AEG. Allplay is releasing the deduction game A Message from the Stars. This plays 2 to 8 players in about 45 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. This almost combines a word game with deduction. So think a little bit something like a Wordle or something like that. If you're a fan of word games like that, then you might really like A Message from the Stars. I should note that it is played either cooperatively or in teams. You can play it sort of 2 teams against each other if you want to have a competitive version of the game. But there are letters that are sort of available to everybody, and those letters, some of them are common letters, some of them are uncommon letters, and some of them are tough letters. And you are making a clue word using some of those letters and trying to get other people to guess specific words with the clue words you're giving and stuff like that. So it's pretty thinky from everything that I can see, from all the stuff that I see other people talking about it. Like it is an interesting deduction game, but it's also maybe it's not like a mystery solving game. A lot of deduction games feel like figure out the case or whatever. It's not that. It's a different type of deduction game, almost combining a word game with a deduction game. So if you like that sort of stuff, check out A Message from the Stars. Asmodee, in association with Zygomatic, is releasing Star Wars Bounty Hunters. This plays 2 to 6 players in 20 to 30 minutes, and it is a lighter weight card game. You can get a playmat for the game, but you don't have to. You can play it without that, and it's a fairly small imprint. But there are 4 separate decks of cards. And your object, the object of the game, is you are sort of recruiting bounty hunters and then using those bounty hunters to capture targets. So, you are Boba Fett and you are trying to capture Han Solo, that sort of a thing. But you can also buy droids that will help you. You can go to the market and get cards that will help you, all in the name of each of your bounty hunters and your droids sort of has these powers in multiple different areas, and then you need to line them up with the powers on the target card, and you need more power in your attack, whether that is multiple bounty hunters working together or a bounty hunter and droids or whatever. You need to line up multiple of those to be able to capture the target, and the first player to capture 4 targets earn bonuses, and then that triggers the final 2 turns of the game. So you're just trying to sort of build up your cadre of bounty hunters and droids and things like that, and then capture the most valuable targets. One of the interesting things is when you play a bounty hunter down, you need bounty hunters in order to capture, targets, but bounty hunters also come with negative points. So every time you play a bounty hunter down, you're giving up 4 points or whatever, however many amount for the end of the game, but you need them to score points. So there's an interesting push and pull with that sort of decision space right there. So if you're a fan of Star Wars stuff, then you might really like Star Wars Bounty Hunters. Asmodee, in association with Ludonova, is releasing the game Chandigarh. This plays 2 to 4 players in 45 to 60 minutes, and it is a lighter medium weight game. In the game, Chandigarh, thematically, it's 1951, and the Indian government commissioned the renowned architect Le Corbusier to design a new capital for the state of Punjab. And that's how Chandigarh was born in real life. And so you are sort of playing as urban planners. You will have meeples on the board, and you can move along sort of the streets between the building areas, and you will be moving along the streets and playing buildings from your supply into different areas on the board, and you are trying to pattern match. You will have cards, and you're like, ooh, if I get a pink meeple on this side and a green meeple on this side, or if I get two pink, not meeples, buildings, pink buildings, or I need a yellow building here and a green building here and a pink building here. And if you can match those patterns in the sort of 4x4 sector tiles on the board, then you score points for matching patterns. The board is made up of tiles, so it's going to feel different in different games because it's a modular board, which I always like. It adds some replayability to the game to be able to change the setup and change the board layout. So yeah, if you like pattern matching, if you like urban planning, my brother is an urban planner in real life, and so I hear a lot about urban planning. So it actually is pretty cool. I give him a hard time because he wants to talk about it all the time, but it is genuinely pretty interesting. Except when it's about like board meetings and stuff like that, and I'm like, you're too in the weeds, bro. You're too in the weeds. Get out them weeds and just tell me about the high level stuff. So yeah, if you like urban planning stuff, check out Chandigarh. Asmodee, in association with Impatience, is releasing the game Sfynx. This plays 1 to 4 players in 15 to 40 minutes, and it is a lighter or maybe lighter medium weight game somewhere in there. But this one does probably work for families. They say it works for like 8 years old and up. So I would say that this is sort of that family weight deduction game, but it is cool. You will have a bunch of tiles out on the board, and you need to solve riddles, and you don't actually need to solve a word riddle. There are essentially cards that you need to match patterns of tiles on those cards, and you need to do it 9 times in order to win the game. And it does escalate in difficulty, right? There are some easy cards, there's some very, very hard cards in it. And, the way you're going to match the patterns is you can sort of manipulate tiles by moving them around. You're swapping positions, you're moving stuff, you're flipping tiles over, you're manipulating all of the tiles on the board to get them into the right positions in order to match riddle cards to win the game. It is a cooperative game. You are all trying to do that together, and you all only have a certain amount of things you can do on each turn. Each player can do 3 things on their turn. So, there's going to be talking and, hey, I can't get us there, but I can set you up, so you need to match this pattern. You need to figure out the last couple of steps, and I'm going to move this to where you need to. In a basic version, you'll have wilds, but if you want harder versions, no more wilds. It scales in difficulty pretty well. But you're just basically manipulating the tiles on the grid to match patterns on the riddle cards. So, yeah, it's a fun, lighter deduction game for sure. Bellows Intent is releasing the game An Age Contrived. This is our first heavyweight game of the month, and it is pretty heavyweight. Plays 1 to 5 players in a couple of hours. You are doing, they call it a fantasy Euro game. It is set in a world where you are playing as gods, and you are trying to be the best god out there. And it includes a lot of engine building and resource programming, 2 things that I like a lot in games. Engine building is one of my favorite mechanisms for sure, because at the start you're like, okay, and by the end you're like, yes, I am a god. You're right, I am a god. I am glad I am playing as a god because I feel like one right now. One of the things that makes me so happy about this game is you are building these buildings, these architectures, and you're doing it by they have magnets, and so you're putting up sides of these big three-dimensional pieces, and they will all stick together, and you'll end the game with a bunch of these 3D buildings sort of out on the board. Boy, if you watch my TikTok or my Instagram channels, you'll know I'm a huge fan of magnets in games. I don't know why they get me so much. I like Fractured Sky. Oh my god, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for some magnets in some games, apparently. So, but in this one, in an Age Contrived, you're each going to receive character boards and transmutation devices, and you'll channel energy into the mortal realm. And energy is how a god exerts its will, and you'll be using that energy to construct monuments and claim new tiles and accomplish lasting achievements. So, each player board has unlockable powers, so the asymmetry increases as the game goes on, as you unlock your own sort of special abilities and special powers. There are 5 different ways to build your engine in the game, so a lot of replayability in that way. And Age Contrived had a big crowdfunding platform, but now it will be available if you missed the crowdfunding campaign. Now it's available to you, so check it out. Yeah, an Age Contrived. It's got magnets, dog! Bitewing Games is releasing multiple games to retail this month. The first of which I'll talk about is Cascadero. Plays 2 to 4 players in 45 to 60 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. Cascadero is from famous designer Reiner Knizia, and in the game there is a big board with all of these, little sort of are hexagons 6? Yes, hexagons are 6. The octagons are 8. There's a bunch of hexagons on the board. The board is made up with a bunch of hexagons. I know my shapes. And you are placing out your little meeples there, and you're trying to create connections between town types. There are preset colored in hexagons, and when you can connect your guys from one town to the next, you're going to be going up on tracks, and you're going to score more if you're the second person to connect something to an area. There's a bunch of different ways you're going to get benefits as you go up the track. You're going to get some benefits along the way where you can put out more guys and you can do special things and stuff like that. So it is an abstract game for sure, but it's an abstract game that has a bit of a element of theme to it, because you are sort of the heralds going out to these towns, trying to rebuild trust with these towns, and your envoys. That's what your guys are called. You are the envoys going out and building trust with the towns. That's why if you're the second person to go to a town, you actually score extra points, because hey, we already had a guy here and he was pretty cool, so you're probably even more cool. You've already built up some trust there. So yeah, it's an interesting abstract bigger box game. And if if Cascadero seems like it's too big for you, then there's also Cascadito, also from Bitewing Games, also from Reiner Knizia. It's essentially a roll and write version of Cascadero. You are doing the same thing where you're trying to connect these sort of preset town hexagons, but you're doing it by rolling and drafting dice, and you can cross off spaces and move different ways the board. You're still going to go up tracks as you reach different towns. You're going to cross off that color in the track. Oh, I reached a yellow town, I'm going to cross off something in a yellow track, and get bonuses as you go up on those tracks as well. So it's largely the same concept, hence why it's called Cascadito, which means essentially smaller version of Cascadero. It is inherently a lighter weight game too. It's a smaller box, but But if you're like, look, I can't play Cascadero, there are no dice, and I don't play any games without dice, then Cascadito might be for you because it's got dice in it, and you will be dice drafting in order to move up tracks. All right, and then the last one that Bitewing Games has releasing to retail this month is the game Spectral. Plays 2 to 5 players in about 30 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. This is another deduction style game. We've had a few deduction games this month, and Spectral is a really interesting and thinky deduction style game because there are these cards that go into rows. So you know the 4 cards that are going to be in a row, but you don't know in which order they are in or in which place they're in. And you have this 4x4 grid, and the cards are going to determine certain things like where points get put out and where curses get put out. And they do it in an interesting way. It'll be like, you flip over a card and it's like, okay, the mirror image of this card is going to have a 12-point gem on it, and then the diagonal of this card is going to have a curse on it, and all of the cards are sort of interacting in their own way to place out those sort of things. Well, on your turn, you are placing some meeples out there and then getting to look at cards and taking notes on your sheet of what's where and where the gems are going to be and where the curses are going to be. And if someone already has a meeple there, you essentially have to double it. You have to go and I need to place more meeples there than you have there because I want to see that card as well. And so you are just placing guys out, looking at cards, trying to deduce where different stuff is. If you know what 3 cards are in a row, well, now you know what the 4th card is in the row because there's only the same 4 cards in every row, just in different placements. And so, yeah, it's taking notes, it's figuring it out, and it's then at the end of the game when you know where places are that have like the gems and don't have curses and stuff like that, you need to have meeples on more sides of that card. If you have more meeples on more sides of that card, you're going to win the area control for that card and get those points at the end of the game. So it's deduction, then add in area control to actually score points at the end of the game. So if you like thinky deduction style games, then Spectral might be for you. Button Shy Games, which they're known for their small 18 card games, little wallet games. They're releasing the game The Walking Dead Surrounded. This plays 1 to 4 players in 20 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game. And in The Walking Dead Surrounded, it is branded The Walking Dead. It is the IP, but it's interesting how they boiled it down. You will be placing out locations, and then you need to surround those locations, hence why it is called The Walking Dead Surrounded. But you need more survivors surrounding the locations than walkers. And so when you place out a location, the next card you have to place out, every card is double-sided, locations or survivors and walkers on the other side, and then you're sort of puzzling it out how you're placing stuff around the different locations. I want to get more survivors, but I also don't want to put too many walkers in somewhere else and, all that sort of stuff. So you're just sort of puzzling out the grid as you place out both locations and survivor walker cards and trying to maximize, saving these locations by having more survivors in it than zombies. And so, yeah, if you are a fan of, it is a cooperative game if you want to play it for, works very well solo, but if you want to play it up to 4 people, then you will be making decisions together on where you're placing cards and how you're laying out your grid while you're doing it. So, yeah, Button Shy, their small wallet games really are wallet games, you know. There's things you can put into your pocket, into your wallet, and sort of bring anywhere with you. They make for great games at like restaurants while you're waiting for food or things like that, so you don't have this huge imprint. Yeah, worth checking out. The Walking Dead Surrounded. Capstone Games is releasing the game Tangram City. This plays 1 to 5 players in 10 to 40 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game, but maybe on the high end of that lighter weight game, and it is from famous designer Uwe Rosenberg. This is a tile laying game, but you're not putting down polyomino tiles, you're putting down tangram tiles. So this is a different type of shape, right? There's a bunch of triangles and pieces jutting off. So instead of just sort of polyomino shapes like that, you might have here and then a triangle and then a couple of blocks over here. And so it just makes for a different puzzle. When you are putting tiles down on your board, you are needing to figure out how to get the two triangles together to make a full block, to make a full square. And so, you know, it's just sort of a little bit of a unique puzzle when it comes to tile laying games. And you are also, every tile is double-sided, so it has a sort of green side and a brown side, and you have to balance out your green and brown on your board. And every sort of round, you're trying to have the biggest rectangle of completed areas. You know, half of a triangle doesn't complete an area, so you don't want that in the middle of your area. You want those on the end so that you can score sort of a big grid in front of you. So, yeah, plays pretty quickly. You know, this is definitely a family weight game. It actually is from, you know, Capstone has a sort of family line of games. This is in their family line of games. But if you like tile laying games, this is a little bit of a unique tile laying game because of having the tangram tiles instead of polyomino tiles. Draco Ideas, in association with Crowd Games, is releasing Onus Traianus. Crowd Games is the one that is bringing this to the U.S. market, and this is a video focused on the North American market, because that's where I live, and most of the publishers I know are in North America. So I'm sorry, Europe. I'm sorry, South America. I'm sorry, Africa. I'm sorry, Asia. But you know, this is North America. I'm not sorry, Australia. I don't apologize to you. Now I feel bad for saying that. Now I'm thrown off on my own video because I feel guilty for making a joke at the expense of Australia. Okay, Onus Traianus plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 120 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. If you are a historical gamer, if you are a war gamer, if you are that type of a gamer, then Onus Traianus is for you. It is a historical battles war game, but it doesn't have miniatures, it doesn't have a bunch of stuff like that. Instead, all of the units are represented by cards. So if you're like, well, I don't need all these miniatures, this is annoying having to deal with all these. Well, hey, here's a war game where all the units are represented by cards. Thematically, you are playing as the armies of the great superpowers of the apogee of the Roman Empire during the reign of Emperors Trajan and Hadrian between the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. And so, you know, as with most war games, you are moving around the board and fighting each other and trying to control different areas and control different lands. And you have generals. You have generals that are your leaders. And, you know, the general's token represents his HQ and its own escort. And, you know, it gives bonuses and things like that. So, again, if you're a fan of war games, but you don't want miniatures in your war games, then check out Onus Traianus. Devere Games is releasing the game Sand. This plays 1 to 4 players in about 2 hours, and it is a medium plus game, we're going to call it, on that high end of the medium spectrum in weight and complexity. Sand is a pick up and deliver game at its core. You are going to be picking up these cubes, taking them to different spots on the board, and selling them at the market for points. Selling them at the market for money, and money equals points. One of the unique aspects of the game is you have these sort of action discs, and you slide these discs down to take certain actions. But when you get resource cubes, they actually take up a spot, and you no longer can take that action until you sell that cube. So it's really interesting that makes for tough decisions with timing, right? Like I need to get this stuff because I need to deliver it, but I don't want to do it too early because then I'm making myself less efficient with less action options and stuff like that. And then once I pick it up, I need to deliver it quickly so that I have those actions back. I think that's, this sort of falls into, Devere has this line of fairly small box games with a lot of strategy in them. The White Castle, the Red Cathedral, Bamboo, these were games in that sort of same line, and Sand certainly fits the bill where, there's a lot going on in the game, but they managed to fit it all into a decently small box. Some of their games you need a personal organization degree to figure out how to put everything back in the box, but, that's not the point of this video. And so, yeah, if you like pick up and deliver stuff, if you like thinky strategy stuff, from some of the people I've talked to that played this game, it grows on you with more plays of it. I've heard a few people be like, that first game I was just trying to wrap my head around it, and then as I played it more and as I figured it out more, I started liking it more. So, maybe it's a game that you want to give multiple plays to before you make up your opinion on it. So, yeah, Sand from Devere Games. Envyborn Games is releasing the first games in their Tiny Box series. Envyborn has started a new game series called Tiny Box Games, and they are, they're maybe a little bit more than the 18 card games, but they are still, in very small boxes. They are small puzzly games, and so they're launching that with 3 games right now are releasing to retail. These also had a campaign for them last year, but now they are available. 3 games in the Tiny Box game series, and there will be more of these in the future from Envyborn Games. The first, and in my opinion, sort of the star of these first 3, is the game Sirens. Plays 1 to 2 players in 10 to 20 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game, but there's some really interesting puzzly decisions in the game Sirens. There are multiple different ways to score points, and you're just never going to be able to do all of them, so you kind of have to commit to certain ways to score points for that particular game. And you are drafting cards and then putting them in your puzzle. You are building a line of cards, and you're going to score points for matching symbols or matching card types, or a bunch of different ways that you can. There's a lot of sort of symbology, iconography on the cards, and they're going to score points in different ways. So it's just, how are you puzzling them together in your line in order to maximize the points? And you just play over 2 or 3 rounds. If I'm playing it solo, I'm just trying to maximize my score. If I'm playing it 2 players, I'm just trying to beat my other opponent, and if I can beat them twice, I win the game. One of the cool things about the game, though, is there are literally musical notes on the cards because it's a game about sirens. And at the end of the game, there is a companion app, and you can take a photo of the puzzle that you built, and it will play an actual song for you. You will get to listen to the things that you put out, and you get to judge for yourself, like, did I make a good song this time, or do I need to play this again so I can up my song game right here? So, it's not necessary to the game, but boy, is it a fun little touch where you can sort of use this app and listen to the song that you just created while playing Sirens. The next game in their Tiny Game series is the game Defrag. This game was intended to be a solo game. It's meant to be a solo game. You can play it 2 players, but again, it was designed to be a solo game. Plays in 20 minutes, and it is another very puzzly game. You are going to be putting out a bunch of cards in a grid, and then you are playing cards to sort of manipulate the grid, move cards around, rotate cards, and score points for different iconography on the cards. You're trying to get things into specific positions and score points for getting things into the right positions. There's also a scenario booklet in the game of escalating difficulty, so it will change the setups and change the goals that you need to accomplish and make the game harder and harder. So if you like small box solo puzzles, then Defrag might be a good game for you, and also, has some challenge in it by adding harder and harder scenarios to complete. And, it has that sort of fun, Windows 95 sort of look and theme to it. And then the last game in Envyborn's Tiny Game series is the game 16 Candies. This is a family weight game meant to be played with kids. It plays 3 to 4 players, and in each round you are drawing and discarding cards of different types of candies, trying to form its set collection, and you're trying to form the best hand with the 3 cards in your hand. And when someone thinks that they have the best hand, they can yell, "I got candy," and then the person with the least points, essentially the least good hand, is going to lose that amount of points and lose them by losing the candy. You start with 16 candies. And in the game, they literally say, they provide, cardboard little candy tokens, but the game is recommended to play it with actual candy. Each of you gets to put 16 M&Ms in front of you or stuff like that. And it's a nice thing for kids because, hey, you just had a bad hand. Well, now you get to eat some of your candy. So it doesn't feel as bad. It doesn't feel like, oh man, I had the worst hand. I lose 4 points. Well, let me eat 4 M&Ms. And it makes losing literally more palatable for kids. And so sometimes maybe they want to lose so that they can eat their candy. So you can play it with the cardboard tokens, but if you want to play it like it was truly meant and intended, play it with actual candy. Flat River Games, in association with Toddy's Games, is releasing the game Clash of Galliformes. This plays 2 to 4 players in 30 to 60 minutes, and it is a lighter, medium weight game. And in the game, you will be putting out your bird pieces, your bird clans, moving around the board, and then fighting other bird clans for control of areas. One of the cool things of the game is there's very much a modular board setup. There's a bunch of these triangles, and so you can kind of build the board however you want to. It will be different every time you play the game. And then you're going to add little tokens all over the board in the spots that you don't sort of have your original sort of bird clan in. And as you are moving around these spots, you're going to be picking up these tokens and getting benefits and managing resources for those. But eventually, you're going to meet somebody else on the board and have to fight them for control of it, I just think it's an interesting combat game where you're not playing as warring factions, you're playing as birds. Oh my gosh, these birds are mean and they want control of the lands. It says the threat from rival clans is constant. So you have to adapt your strategies and think ahead of your opponents to survive. There is some player elimination in the game, so that's something to know going into it. But if you want a battling game, if you want a combat game with a little bit of a different theme to it, then Clash of Galliformes might be for you. Good Games Publishing is releasing the game Surf's Up. Every month I do a top 5 games of the month. I play an average of probably 21, 22 new games every month, and so then I pick the top 5 of those. And Surf's Up actually made my top 5 games of April, I think it was. April or March, I can't remember which one it was. Maybe March, yeah. But I just really like, Surf's Up plays 2 to 6 players in 20 to 30 minutes, and it is a lighter medium weight game. It is an auction game, but it has a level of silliness to it that I really like. Because everybody is starting with the same bid cards, and then you are bidding for waves. You are surfers trying to catch a great wave, and so you can see the waves that are coming into shore, and only the one closest to shore are you bidding on. But there's some levels to it that I think are interesting, because if you win a wave card, you lose that bid card out of the game. So there's some real tough choices of like, do I want to use my 4 on that card and then potentially lose my 4 for the rest of the game because that's like one of the highest ones you have? Or do I want to wait for a different wave card? But if you play the same wave card as the same bid card as somebody else, then you both wipe out. However, if one of you has more respect, literally these tokens that represent respect, then you're like, oh bro, you got more respect. I give you the wave, homie. You gotta be gnarly out there, brah. Take that wave, brah. And so that level of respect really comes into play. But if 2 people have the same bid card and the same level of respect, then the other guy swoops in after these 2 have crashed and is like, I got the wave now, brah. And so it's just a fun like auction bidding sort of catching waves. It's got some silliness to it. It plays again really quickly, plays in like 20 minutes. So it's a game that I want to play a couple times in a row. I will say it's best with probably more players. I don't know that I play this one at 2 players that much, but 3, 4, 5, 6, it works at all those levels. And so yeah, it's just a fun game about catching waves. Good Games Publishing is also releasing the game Star Tycoon. This plays 1 to 4 players in 25 to 100 minutes, and it is a solidly medium weight game. Star Tycoon, you are playing as interstellar businesses with the goal of outperforming their rival businesses by the end of the game. And so there's an engine building aspect to the game and a market economy that's interesting in the game, because you will be getting resources and you can trade those resources for other things in order to buy the cards you need, to buy the businesses that help with your engine building and the planets and things like that. But as you buy and sell things in the market, the value of things goes up and down based on supply and demand. So, the game starts off with it right in the middle. So I can trade one thing for one other thing, but now it moves this way. And now I need 2 things for one thing. But if I bought that thing, then it's going to move up this way because now it's in more demand and stuff like that. So that's the unique aspect of the game, is how you can trade resources and get different things you need, but the market for trading, the market for buying is always changing based on what people are buying and selling. I find that to be an interesting sort of economic thing in the middle of this, big space game. Again, then you're getting these planets. These planets are going to get you resources, get you points in different ways. If I can put a planet out here and I can get these 3 types of things underneath that planet, then it's going to score me 4 points, and you're trying to sort of fulfill demands in that way, but by using the market in a wise way. So if you're a fan of space games, if you're a fan of economic manipulation, then Star Tycoon might be for you. Gray Matters Games is releasing the party game Slip It In. This is a unique party game in that it is a game meant to be played while you are doing other things. You could play it while you're playing other games. You can play it while you're on vacation with your family. You can play it with your date while you're out at a restaurant. You can kind of do it however you want. In the game, each player will get a set of cards, and those cards will have sort of random phrases on them. You know, the phrases will be things like whippersnapper or let's hear your French accent or whatever it is, just random sort of things. And you have to try to slip those things into conversation without getting caught by the other players. So, you know, you're like, I've been playing soccer recently, but I've been real sore because I'm just not a whippersnapper anymore. And then either it gets through and you're like, ha ha ha, I've snuck this in and nobody suspected me. Or somebody's like, that's a weird thing for you to say. Is that one of your cards? And then you get called out and you have to get a new card. And whoever can get through all of their cards first without getting caught wins a game of Slip It In. So I should also mention that I wrote a bunch of the cards for Slip It In. They hired me and another board game content creator, Danielle Standring, to write some cards for this game. So I wrote some funny things to go into Slip It In. So yeah, again, it's very light and silly, but it's fun that it's a thing you can be playing while you're sort of doing other things. One of the things I get asked on my TikTok channel a bunch is like, what's a game you can play while you're waiting in line, like at an amusement park or something else? Well, Slip It In would be great for that sort of stuff. You just give everybody a number of those cards at the start of the day, and then you try to do it. So yeah, it's a fun party game for sure. Hachette, in association with Gigamic, is releasing the family game Garden Getaway, and this really is a kids game. It can be played with adults and kids, but it plays as young as 4 years old. So if you are looking for a game for your very young children, Garden Getaway might be for you. And it includes multiple ways to modify the game to play it with different age children. So you can skew it younger, you can skew it older, however old your kids are. But you are running away from the gardener. You are playing as these cute little garden animals and trying to sort of move along the path to get away from the gardener. It helps you with decision-making skills. It helps kids, immerses them in a colorful world with charming characters. So, yeah, again, if you want a game for your young children, then check out Garden Getaway. Hachette, in association with Gigamic, is also releasing the party game Task Team. This plays 3 to 18 players in 20 minutes, and it is a lightweight party game. This is, there's been other games like this where essentially there's a bunch of things you have to do, challenges you have to do. Can you bounce these things into this thing? Can you slide this under this? That sort of stuff. So every card is going to come with a sort of mini game task, and then you have to try to accomplish it faster than another player, or play in teams and accomplish it faster than the other team. And things like, you have a tape measure and you're trying to unspool the tape measure if you can, and whoever can do that the most in a certain amount of time. So again, just a bunch of silly tests. If you want a game that is a bunch of physical little mini games that gets everybody up and moving, then Task Team might be for you. Looney Labs is releasing the game Jinxx. Jinxx is an abstract game that plays 2 to 4 players in 15 to 30 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game. You will have these cones of different sizes, and you are going to roll a dice, and that will tell you which cone you can place out. And you are essentially trying to get your cones and to get 3 in a row. But, smaller cones can go on top of larger cones. So if you have a big cone out there, I might be able to put my medium cone on top of it. And now, if I have the bottom one and I move the bottom one, then it's going to move whatever you have above it with it, you know? And so you are stacking cones and trying to get yourself, it's Connect 4, but with it kind of stacking and moving as you go. So an interesting, small box strategy game. It's definitely still comes in a small box. So you have to own the topmost pyramid in a three-space line. And so how can you get on top of stuff? How can you move around and accomplish that? So an interesting little abstract game. Pandasaurus Games is releasing the game Courtisans. Plays 2 to 5 players in 20 to 30 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game. In Courtisans, you are going to receive 3 cards, and you have to play 1 to your own area, 1 to an opponent's area, and 1 to the central area, the sort of main play area. And when you play it to the main play area, you are going to play it either above or below that suit, that family color. And if you're playing it above, you are making all of those cards worth points. And if you play it below, you're making those types of cards negative points. So there's a ton of manipulation. And at the end of the game, if there are more cards above than below, then all the things you have matching that suit, that color, are going to score positive points. But if there's more cards below than above, all of those cards are going to cost you points. And so you're really trying to screw over other players. You are, you have a bunch of greens. Well, now greens are going to be worth negative points. Good luck to you. There's definitely some take that. But it's everybody's doing it to everybody. You have to, when you have your 3 cards, you have to play 1 to you, 1 to up here, and 1 to an opponent. And so it's forcing that player interaction and, forcing some backstabbing in the game. So I don't love backstabbing when it's like a 2-hour game, but when it's a 20-minute game, it's like, yeah, let's all screw each other over. This is fun for 20 minutes, for sure. Pandasaurus Games is releasing the game Faraway, and I'll tell you, I've been playing this game so much. We've probably played it in my house 20 times already this month. It plays 2 to 6 players in 15 to 30 minutes, and it is a lighter weight to a light medium weight game, but it is such an interesting puzzle. There are so many different combos of cards and stuff, but the way the game works is you are drafting cards and then playing cards in front of you, but you're playing just 8 cards. You are playing an 8-card journey, and the game ends when you've played 8 cards. And then you are traveling out and only scoring points as you travel back on your journey. And so there's so many hard decisions in the game of like, if I put this here, am I going to get something to the right of it that I'm going to need in order for that to score points? Because different points have requirements. It's like, I put this down and I need 2 pineapples to the right of it because all of these cards I haven't seen yet when I'm traveling back. So any pineapples on those cards aren't going to matter. They're not going to matter. I need them over here. And so there's just so many interesting choices on where and what cards to place, and I feel like my roommates all really like it too, and so we're all competing with each other, but we're also competing for our own personal high score. The last game I played of this, I had my own personal high score, and I still am riding high. I don't feel like I'm going to beat it. I did so well, but man, it is a fun small box puzzly game. It will for sure be one of my top small box games of the year, and could even challenge for one of my top 10 games of the year for sure. So that's Faraway from Pandasaurus Games. Weird Giraffe Games is releasing the small box game A Explosion in the Laboratory. This plays 1 to 4 players in about 20 minutes, and it's a 27 card game, and you are combining ingredients and trying to get stable ingredients and not get ingredients that are combustible and make you explode. There's a push your luck aspect to the game, because you sort of shuffle up these cards, and whatever combination it makes, those are the ingredients you need to add to your own cards. And sometimes that will be good because, ooh, I combine this type with this type, and that scores me 4 points. But sometimes, oh no, I have to combine this type with this type, and that's going to create an explosion, and now I just lost all my points. And so, I like push your luck games. This is certainly a puzzly push your luck game. There's a lot of push your luck games are just like dice rolling or stuff like that. This is way more of a sort of thinky push your luck game of like, ooh, okay, what cards do I have left? What are they going to combine with that badly? I don't want to get those. Do I want to draw another card? Do I want to see what I can get here? So yeah, it's a thinky push your luck game. Explosion in the Laboratory. So that's it. That's what I got for you this month. I believe that was 27 games that are hitting retail in the month of May. As always, I hope you found something that you're excited by here. I hope you found something that you want to play, that you're going to get to the table soon. If you want to support this series, I'm talking to like 400 different publishers. Pretty exhaustive research to make these videos. I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/GrantsGameRex. But again, thank you for watching. Thanks for sharing and all that great stuff. Hope you're having fun playing games out there. All right, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex.